Hey folks, my name is Bo, and today we're going to find out if folding phones are finally good enough to be worth the king's ransom that companies charge for them. This, my friends, is Google's Pixel 9 Pro Fold. Let's take a look. So right off the rip, there's no getting around it. This phone is disgustingly expensive. At launch here in the US, the base model is an eye-watering $1,800. Now when it comes to what other people spend their money on, I'm a big to-each-their-own kind of guy.
I do not understand what you spend your money on.
As long as it aligns with their priorities and brings them joy, I say more power to them. But for the relative cost of a pretty high-end laptop, a powerful custom gaming PC, or hell, even a late model Honda Civic, this phone better really align with your priorities. One thing I can say with certainty, after living with the 9 Pro Fold for a while, that if ever there was a phone that was actually worth $1,800, yeah, this is probably it. Google came out absolutely loaded for bear with this device. And though I know there were plenty of people who loved the quirky, unique design of the OG Fold, the jump from the first to the second is so stark, it kind of feels like a reverse True Detective. Especially during a time when the other big smartphone players are largely resting on their laurels, this sort of year-over-year improvement is, frankly, kind of amazing. This device is basically better than its predecessor in every single way, with a couple exceptions we'll talk about a bit later. The thing that Google have hung their proverbial hat on since entering the folding phone space is that people actually want to use the phone folded for a significant swath of their day. I understand that some people may enjoy the attention and wandering gazes that come with using the inner screen of a folding phone in public, but for many of us, we'd strongly prefer to remain inconspicuous and attract as little attention as possible. That's why this form factor makes sense for a lot of people. It doesn't feel like you're sacrificing much when using it like a normal phone, especially when compared to something like Samsung's Z Fold, for which that cover screen feels like more of an emergency backup than something you want to actually use on the reg. I'd say I've been using the cover screen on the Pixel about 75% of the time, and then whipping out that glorious inside screen for things like hemorrhaging the precious time I have on this earth on Reddit and YouTube, or reading in the Kindle app. I've also found some pretty fun specialized use cases for it, like using it as an external camera monitor. I have to admit, all these things feel downright luxurious when you're used to doing them on a slab phone. Both the inner and outer screens on the Pixel are a real treat to use. They're bright, the colors are gorgeous, and for me this is unquestionably the right form factor for a folding device. A phone in the streets, and a tablet in the sheets. While the screens are definitely the stars of the show on the 9 Pro Fold, there isn't really an aspect of this phone that doesn't feel polished and competent, if not necessarily exceptional. Smartphones in general seem to be in a bit of a drought when it comes to significant camera improvements, and folding phones in particular have never been considered heavy hitters in this department. That is a trend that the 9 Pro Fold, unfortunately, does not buck. It offers a very similar camera experience to the OG Fold, which is pretty damn good by folding phone standards, and serviceable by premium slab phone standards. Don't get me wrong, it's a very capable system, and you can get some great photos and videos out of it, but no one's going to be surprised to learn they were shot on a smartphone. I've definitely had fun shooting with it though, and though folding phones will probably never lead the charge in terms of quality and capabilities, they do offer some distinctive photographic advantages to their normie siblings. Things like having a built-in tripod you can set up pretty much anywhere, being able to use the rear camera for selfies, or just having a big, beautiful screen to preview and review your shots on makes for a delightful image capturing experience. The Pro Fold has proven to be a trusty photographic companion, even while enjoying the sights and truly pungent aromas of my very first Renaissance fair. Now, if you're like me, rather than process, or even acknowledge really, your complex feelings or traumatic childhood experiences, it's much easier to use a steady stream of videos or podcasts to keep your brain in a perpetual state of blissful distraction. Well, with the 9 Pro Fold, that's never been easier. Combine those aforementioned beautiful screens with a very solid set of stereo speakers, and you've got a media consumption experience that's quite possibly without rival. One of the most convenient features of a folding phone is that no matter what you're doing, you can always prop it up for a convenient vantage point to enjoy your content and keep those pesky emotions at bay. In terms of endurance, I've been pleasantly surprised with my unit, and personally had no issue getting through a full day on a charge, usually hitting the hay with anywhere from 20 to 50% battery remaining. As much as I've enjoyed using this phone, it's not without its peccadillos. Starting with what is, at least in my opinion, the most egregious offender, saying that this phone has wireless charging is damn near false advertising. The sweet spot for where the phone needs to sit to actually charge is obnoxiously small. Pretty much all my wireless chargers are either MagSafe or stand style, and though they all work just fine with the OG Pixel Fold, not a single one of them works with this phone. Another annoyance I ran into was when using the inner screen one-handed, which I usually prefer to do. It's pretty comfortable. When I'm holding the phone in portrait mode, my pinky lands directly on the bottom speaker grill and muffles the sound to a pretty distracting degree. When I'm holding it in landscape mode, my pinky lands directly on the power button and activates it pretty frequently by mistake, which can be pretty annoying. Both of these were alleviated at least somewhat with a case, but I just found it to be kind of an odd design decision, and something I haven't run into with other large folding phones. Aside from that, I've had my fair share of random jankiness and apps crashing. I'm sure most of this stuff will be ironed out with time and updates, but not exactly the kind of things you want to welcome with open arms after purchasing one of the most expensive phones on the market. I think a price this high deserves a similarly high level of scrutiny. I've daily driven a few folding phones over the years, and as I was getting to know this one, it occurred to me that most of the qualms I do have are less about the 9 Pro Fold and more about large folding phones in general. And my biggest gripe really just comes down to the value proposition. When you think about other product categories, not always, but usually a product that's more expensive, especially significantly more expensive, is pretty much going to be better across the board. Like, both great cars, but there's not a lot that a Honda Accord does better than a BMW 3 Series. There's not a lot that a Yamaha guitar does better than a Collings or a Martin. You can kind of think of that higher price as the rising tide that raises all ships. That's where things get kind of complicated with these expensive folding phones. I think it'd be a much easier equation for buyers if, while charging the price of a black market kidney, folding phones were also giving you the best cameras, the best performance, the best battery life. Instead, you're paying that premium for what, at least to me, kind of feels like a lot of compromise. This is the Galaxy S24 Ultra. It came out about 9 months ago. Shamefully, it has but one measly screen, but its cameras are better, its performance is better, it has better battery life, it's more durable and resistant to dust and water, it has better speakers, and it costs several $100s less. But it can't do this. And buying a folding phone is basically saying that for you, this is the feature you care about the most. You're fine with not having the best of the best in those other areas, as long as you've got access to this magnificent inner screen. If that's a decision you've made for yourself, I think this is the best folding phone you can buy. The design team has created a wonderfully balanced experience with a lovely attention to detail that just makes using this phone a goddamn delight. This phone also has a bunch of AI features that, as hard as I've tried, cannot bring myself to care about in the least. For a more comprehensive look at this device, I'd recommend checking in with some of the best in the business, like Mikey or Marky. But there is one more thing we need to talk about, and it's here in the room.
It's an elephant.
And that's the existence of the OnePlus Open. A phone that came out last year, but in my opinion still trades blows with the 9 Pro Fold. It's not a landslide victory, but I probably prefer the Pixel software experience. The Open lacks wireless charging, though as we established earlier, I would probably call that a wash. I think the camera systems are close, but I might even give the edge to the Open in that department. It does have a big honkin' camera bump, but weirdly I enjoyed using that as a poor man's pop socket to hold the phone in landscape mode. The retail price is $100 cheaper, and if you wanted to get adventurous, you could find a used one on eBay, add the Allstate insurance for peace of mind, and come out nearly $1,000 cheaper than the Pro Fold. Thank you sincerely for watching. I've had a ball making these first couple of videos on my channel, and if against your better judgment, you'd like to encourage more of this nonsense, feel free to do the things that YouTubers ask people to do ad nauseum. Or even stop by my Patreon, where some monthly memberships cost less than adding guacamole to your Chipotle burrito. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.